You hear it, that faint, high-pitched buzzing somewhere in your room. You turn on the light. Nothing. You lie back down. A few minutes later, it's back. Now you're fully awake. You check the corners of the room, maybe grab a mosquito swatter, maybe turn on a fan, maybe spray some bug repellent. Eventually, the mosquito dies. Problem solved. For 99% of human history, none of those options existed. There was no bug spray, no screen windows, no air conditioning, no sealed bedrooms. Just you, a fire, and thousands of mosquitoes that wanted your blood. So how did ancient humans deal with mosquitoes? The short answer is they couldn't get rid of them. The long answer is much more interesting. Let's start with something most people don't realize. Mosquitoes are older than humans, much older. Scientists estimate that mosquitoes have existed for more than 100 million years. That means mosquitoes were already flying around while dinosaurs still walked the earth. Human beings didn't enter a mosquito-free world. We entered theirs. And for hundreds of thousands of years, our ancestors had to figure out how to survive alongside one of the most persistent animals on the planet. At first, this doesn't sound like a huge problem. After all, a mosquito is tiny. It weighs less than a raindrop. Surely ancient humans had bigger concerns. Lions, hyenas, snakes, starvation, and they did. But here's the surprising part. Mosquitoes may have been more dangerous than all of them. Today, mosquitoes kill hundreds of thousands of people every year through diseases like malaria, dengue, yellow fever, and others. Historically, the number is staggering. Some researchers estimate that mosquitoes have killed more humans than any other animal in history. Not because they're strong, not because they're intelligent, but because they're everywhere. And they never stop. Now, some of you might be wondering something obvious. If mosquitoes were such a problem, why didn't ancient humans simply avoid them? Fair question. The answer is water. Humans need water to survive. Mosquitoes need water to reproduce. The best places for humans were often the best places for mosquitoes. Rivers, lakes, wetlands, floodplains, the very environments that provided food, fish, and fresh water also produced enormous mosquito populations. You couldn't simply leave. Leaving the mosquitoes often meant leaving the resources keeping you alive. So ancient humans had to get creative. The first strategy was surprisingly simple: smoke. Anthropologists studying traditional societies around the world have noticed the same pattern again and again. People build fires, not just for warmth, not just for cooking, but for insects. Smoke interferes with mosquitoes' ability to locate humans. A mosquito normally finds you by detecting carbon dioxide from your breath and chemicals released by your skin. Smoke makes that job much harder. This meant that an evening fire wasn't just a source of light, it was also an ancient mosquito repellent. In some regions, people deliberately burned plants that produced thicker smoke. The goal wasn't comfort, the goal was survival. But here's the problem. You can't carry a campfire everywhere. What happened when people slept? This is where things get interesting. Most people imagine ancient humans randomly sleeping wherever they happen to be. That's not what happened. Hunter-gatherers paid close attention to their environment. Camp location mattered a lot. Researchers studying both modern hunter-gatherers and traditional communities have found that people often avoid areas with stagnant water whenever possible. Not because they understood mosquito biology, they didn't, but because they understood patterns. Sleep near a swamp, get bitten all night. Sleep somewhere drier, get bitten less. You don't need science to notice that. You just need experience. And ancient humans had thousands of generations of it. In a way, they were running experiments long before science existed. Try a location, observe the results, remember what worked, pass it on, then pass it on again, generation after generation. But even the best campsite couldn't eliminate mosquitoes completely. Sooner or later, night would come, and the mosquitoes would arrive. So what was it actually like? Imagine it's 20,000 years ago. The sun has disappeared. The fire crackles softly. Children are asleep. A few people are still talking. The air is warm. Then the mosquitoes emerge. You swat one away, then another, then another. There are no walls, no glass windows, no mosquito nets, no way to seal yourself inside a protected room. You simply endure. And surprisingly, ancient humans may have been better at this than we are. Not because they like mosquitoes, Nobody likes mosquitoes, but because expectations shape suffering, modern humans expect comfort. Ancient humans expected nature. A mosquito bite wasn't an interruption to daily life. It was daily life. In the same way that rain, wind, heat, and cold were normal parts of existence, that doesn't mean mosquitoes were harmless. Far from it. Children were especially vulnerable. Even today, mosquito-borne diseases kill disproportionately young people in many parts of the world. Ancient parents had every reason to protect their children, and evidence suggests they often used smoke, protective coverings, and careful campsite selection to reduce exposure. Were these methods perfect? Not even close. But perfection wasn't the goal. Reducing risk was, and that distinction mattered. Because for most of human history, survival wasn't about eliminating danger, it was about managing it. You didn't eliminate predators, you reduced encounters. You didn't eliminate hunger, you stored food, and you didn't eliminate mosquitoes, you found ways to make them slightly less miserable. That's how humans solve most problems. Not with a single invention, with thousands of small adjustments. Then something changed. Around 10,000 years ago, humans began farming. At first, this seems unrelated to mosquitoes. It wasn't. Agriculture encouraged permanent settlements. Permanent settlements meant larger populations. Larger populations meant more standing water. More standing water meant more mosquitoes. In many regions, mosquito populations exploded alongside early farming communities. Ironically, the thing that made civilization possible often made mosquito problems worse. For the first time, humans were living in dense communities near predictable water sources year after year, exactly the conditions mosquitoes love. And yet, civilization continued growing. So humans developed new defenses: homes, walls, screens, drained wetlands, eventually, science. Then came one of the greatest perspective shifts in human history. For thousands of years, people knew mosquitoes were annoying. They didn't know mosquitoes were dangerous. The connection wasn't obvious. A tiny insect bites you. Weeks later, you become sick. How would you connect those events? For most of history, people couldn't. Then, in the late 1800s, scientists finally discovered that mosquitoes were transmitting diseases like malaria. Suddenly, one of humanity's oldest enemies made sense. The invisible threat became visible. And once humans understood the problem, they started fighting back more effectively than ever before. Mosquito nets, insecticides, window screens, air conditioning, modern medicine. For the first time, humans gained a real advantage. Today, many people live entire lives without worrying much about mosquitoes at all. And that's where the story becomes strange. Because despite all our technology, despite thousands of years of progress, despite solving countless problems that terrified our ancestors, one mosquito can still ruin your night. You hear the buzzing, you turn on the light, you search the room. Suddenly, nothing else matters. For a few minutes, your attention becomes completely focused on a tiny flying insect. And maybe that's why mosquitoes are so fascinating. Not because they're powerful, because they're not. Not because they're intelligent, because they're not, but because they remind us of something ancient. For hundreds of thousands of years, humans have been building tools, creating technology, and reshaping the world around them. Yet one of our oldest battles is still happening. Tonight, in bedrooms, in campsites, in villages, in cities, everywhere humans live. We invented bug spray. We invented screens. We invented air conditioning. But the moment that mosquito starts buzzing near your ear, you're sharing an experience with people who lived 50,000 years ago. Different world, different technology, same mosquito. And somehow, after all this time, it's still winning just enough battles to keep us awake.